So, remember when this hairstyle was cool? Everybody used to do the spiked in the front, kind of push forward. Do you remember when this hairstyle was cool? Anybody remember that? Well, I'm going to let you fools know, I woke up like this. I woke up in tip-top shape. In my last video, I told you guys one thing to do for confidence was look your best. Like Mike, the situation said, when you look good, you feel good. When you feel good, you perform good. I'm going to let you guys know, I haven't kept up with my beard, which is awful. That being said, my confidence is super low, as you can tell. Guys, I wanted to film this video today to talk about none other than Mike Tyson. Let me give you a little bit of backstory before we dig into this. Mike Tyson has been retired longer than most of you viewers have been alive. In the early 90s, he was terrifying. Throughout the 90s, he was terrifying. He's kind of a loose cannon. Movie scenes, or movies, award shows, talk shows, just being seen backstage at places. He checks people. It's Mike Tyson. Scary guy. He's looking for a fight. Guess what? He found one. So, for those of you who don't remember, Mike Tyson was terrifying. I mean, they coined the term the Mike Tyson effect from Mike Tyson because he had an effect on people. People were beat before they even got to the ring with him. Mentally, he destroyed them. People were afraid of him, so they couldn't perform. Their performance suffered because they had fear before they already knew the outcome. They had fear before anything had been finalized. They let fear control them, and it dictated the outcome of their fights. He was Mike Tyson. Ronda Rousey had that too. Everyone was so afraid of being submitted in the first round, they said Ronda Rousey had the Mike Tyson effect. It was a real thing. Mike Tyson also was terrifying on the mic. Mike was terrifying on the mic because he said crazy things like, "I'll eat your children." He said crazy things like he was going to discombobulate people, and he was terrifying. I'm telling you. So who is going to answer the call? Who is going to challenge Mike Tyson? RJJ. And I'm not talking about Remington James. RJJ, Roy Jones Jr., baby. Oh, Roy Jones Jr., he can't be stopped. He can't be stopped. If you don't know that song, pause my YouTube video, open another tab, type in YouTube, type in Roy Jones Jr. can't be stopped. You're welcome. But now that you're back and I got your attention, Roy Jones Jr., he wanted that smoke with Anderson Silva. You guys remember that? When he wanted to fight Anderson Silva, it just never came to fruition. Roy Jones Jr., lightning fast versus devastating punching power with Mike Tyson. Ugh, I'm excited. I'm pumped for this. The big question remains, does Mike Tyson still have it? He's been retired for so long. Can Mike Tyson still do it? I think the answer of that is yes. And why? Why do I think that? I think that because if you've noticed circulating around the MMA community, he's been throwing hands with some top MMA coaches. And he's been giving some boxing examples and movement advice to Francis Ngannou and other UFC fighters. He moves around with them, shows them his dips, and then how he'd hook in, boom, boom. He was smooth. Power puncher, hooks, Just throwing him with bad intentions every time. Ugh, Mike Tyson. I think he still got it. From video footage of him hitting mitts and video footage of him moving around, showing people how he would dip, get low, and then throw the hooks. Bam, bam, bam. I think he still got it. Which leads to the question, does Roy Jones Jr. still have it? I don't think so. Roy Jones has stuck around in other organizations and other events that he has no business in. He's taken a lot of He's taken a lot of post-prime punishment. A lot of punishment since his prime. Staying in other organizations, picking up a fight here and there and getting completely starched, taking unnecessary damage. I don't think the Roy Jones that's getting in there is as healthy as a Mike Tyson who will be stepping in there, which is a shame because Roy Jones Jr. banked on footwork and head movement and hand speed. Mike Tyson was lightning fast with power. I don't think Roy Jones Jr. can take one of Mike Tyson's punches today. I think he's taken too much post-prime punishment over the last few years, picking up events from here and there. Why he's doing it, maybe he still has that burning need to compete. I just don't think he can take a hammer from Mike Tyson. I don't think his brain will let him do it anymore. So, it's a bold statement to say Roy Jones Jr. can't do it anymore. It's my observation. It's just an opinion. I just have seen Roy Jones Jr. take so much damage. On the other hand, Mike Tyson hasn't. He hasn't taken the type of damage that Roy has. I think Mike is going to be fresher. He's taken less head trauma over the last decade. You know, Mike knows what he's doing. Mike's a competitor, and so does Roy Jones. Roy knows what he's doing. Roy's a competitor. Neither one of these guys are going to quit. Neither one of these guys want to lose. That's what's going to make the fight so appealing. Honestly, Mike Tyson's physique has changed dramatically. Go look at his physique when he was doing the stand-up comedy thing. Go look at his physique in some of the movies that he was in. Check out his physique today. Type in Mike Tyson in Google. Mike Tyson physique 2020 before and after. Some of the images that you'll see are insane. The guy's in incredible shape. Looks like an athlete. Looks like a top-tier athlete. But he had to get in shape. So at one point he fell out of shape. Now he's back in shape. One thing I think with Roy Jones Jr., by staying active past his prime and taking these fights here and there, he has stayed in shape. From what it appears to me, he stayed athletic looking. He stayed with a physique. Will that factor in? Does that matter? Lifelong of being healthy versus someone who had to get back to healthy. We'll find out. We'll also find out who's there mentally. You know Roy's up. You know Roy's game. He's been doing it. He's been competing still past his prime. He has no problem walking out there. Is Mike here? It's a big question. I mean, that's a question. Is Mike mentally prepared for this? Is it going to be good for Mike Tyson's psyche to do this fight? It's not just physically, is he okay? It's mentally. Can he do it? Can he go back to that place that he was once at when he was the most feared? That'll be a great question, and I think we're going to find that answer. I think we'll find that answer before he walks out to the cage. Remember Mike Tyson had that quote where when he first starts walking, he was afraid. Then he started gaining confidence with each step. And by the time he stepped in that ring, he was a god. Let's see if he can get there again in his head. Because Roy has still been competing. I don't think Roy has to dig too deep to find that. I do think Roy is going to have an issue with the power. And I think Mike is going to have an issue with timing. I think that's what's going to come down to. Timing and power. Speed beats precision. But I think Mike wins this fight. Now let's talk about a couple details. Will it be 12 rounds? Will it be 3-minute rounds for each round? Let me know what you think. If you've made it this far in the video, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. Be sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, turn that little notification bell on. It supports me more than you know. Leave a comment on who you think is going to win. Who is it? Roy Jones Jr. or Mike Tyson? I'm pumped. Speaking of pumped, I'm pumped by my thumbnail. Did you guys see my thumbnail? Did you see it? My thumbnail is insane. Thank Brian. Brian Gillickson. I don't know how to say your last name. Sorry about that, buddy. But Gullixson on Twitter. Hit him up. I was introduced to him by a friend of mine. This guy is super creative, super talented, and fast. I love it. Every one of my thumbnails that I've ever had that you guys like, that are funny, that are done really well, he did. If you need thumbnails created or any artwork or any images created, check out my boy Brian. You won't be disappointed.